Howdy folks. In an age of paid review scandals, far too much money in game advertising generally, and overall just far too much hype, it's rare to find a game that the critics actually underrate, especially when it comes to licensed products. But I think I found one in Terminator Resistance. I'm going to take a look at why the game is good and why I think the critics got it wrong. Let's jump in. So what you were going to be hearing about in this bit originally was a joke about how there were 5 Terminator movies and only 2 of them were good ones. I'd come up with an amazing boy band joke. But then I found out there were actually 6 movies. I changed the joke to accommodate, and then someone actually told me that the 6th one is pretty good. So I kind of gave up and just thought I'd tell you this story. Anyway, the point I'm making is, it is at best fair to say that the movie series Terminator Resistance is based off is a little bit on the hit and miss side. I've only seen the first 3, and to the best of my knowledge, the game only actually relates to the first 2. The game does have like an introduction to the story kind of thing, but honestly the movies are more or less required reading. I'm not going to go over the plot of them here because we'll be here all day, but go watch them. They're good. So Resistance is what I would refer to as a slotting game when it comes to licensed products. It's not telling the story of the first or second movie, but it actually runs alongside them with a character of its own making to give it that extra freedom. For those who do know the story, we are in the post-Judgment Day future here, so unfortunately we aren't going to see badass Linda Hamilton running around, or for that matter Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their likenesses aren't in the game at all, for better or worse you can decide. The game is a first-person shooter for the most part, with some light dabbling into the crafting and RPG mechanics. The crafting makes sense, we're in the middle of this group of scavengers dealing with the ruins of cities, and hell, the movies take time to show Sarah Connor being taught to make pipe bombs, right? The RPG mechanics though, not so much. I'm just never a fan of a game giving me an XP bar when I could see that I was progressing perfectly well without one. I mean, I'm just saying, when one of the abilities I get to pick for leveling up is the ability to level up faster, you could probably have just scrapped this whole system, no one would miss it. The RPG style edition that definitely does work though is the dialogue trees. Sure, there is this very BioWare feel to them where everyone stands around staring dead-eyed at the person talking, but they're well written, the characters are likeable, and ultimately I found myself talking to the characters about their backstory because I wanted to hear their backstories. And even do the little side missions they sent me on, which is pretty much all anyone can ask of them. One thing we do have though, and I really hope this isn't the only legacy from Telltale Games, is that whenever you do anything for someone and they appreciate it, a little box will appear like this, thank you future Ayana, and tell you that they appreciated it. Writers, you have to start trusting your gamers more than this. As a player, if you don't think I would know whether or not a character I've been dealing with for a couple of hours is going to like something I did or not, that suggests to me that you either need to change that character, either in terms of animation or their overall responses to things, or change the dialogue options. Putting on the screen that they feel sad about something I did is just a cop-out. It's especially important in this case, because without giving any spoilers, it's really important to this story. Just briefly on story, I'm not going to talk about it too much in the review here. It is a very Terminator story, there are lots of time travel shenanigans going on and everything that implies, and because of that, it is a very Fight Club style story. You really are going to want to play through it twice. That's all I really want to say, because going any further than that would be giving spoilers, but it's a good Terminator story. So what does the game actually play like? Well, its first-person running and gunning is actually really good. The environments look and feel like they're part of the Terminator universe, and all of the guns feel extremely satisfying, but part of that universe as well. I especially like the fact that when you first encounter them, Terminators can't actually be harmed with any of the weapons you're carrying. It gives a really good intimidating feeling, even though they become a bit easy later on. The game does have a suite of stealth options available, but I can't really speak to them because it's just not how I played the game. Running and gunning was perfectly acceptable pretty much all the time, though occasionally you had to choose your battle. The game doesn't get bogged down in silly cover mechanics or anything either. It keeps the gunplay extremely simple to the very last level, which without spoiling anything is actually a real highlight, and the purity absolutely makes it shine. Now, things aren't perfect. The game has load times which are a little bit on the long side, and it's really stingy with its checkpoint system. None of them a deal breaker, but you actually start off fairly squishy in-game as well, largely because there's a whole experience point tree dedicated to making you take less damage, so obviously they had to make you squishier to compensate. Terminators can also do single-hit melee kills as well, and overall it just means death is quite frequent, which just makes the checkpoint system and the loading screen all the more annoying. Also, and I'm not against this on principle or anything, but the game has a couple of sex scenes that come completely out of left field and really add nothing other than just being awkward sex scenes. Which I suppose is true of the first Terminator movie as well, so brand loyalty perhaps? I could have done without them though. Video games just don't handle sex scenes well right now, and for that reason, if they're just added for the sake of it, they come across as puerile. So a little fourth wall break for you here folks. I had read the review scores for this game prior to playing it, but I hadn't actually read the reviews themselves or watched the reviews if they were video reviews. I didn't want to queer my own thoughts on it until I'd written them down. So I've gone and done that since. Now, I knew we were going to have differing views on the game. I mean, IGN gave this a 4 out of 10, which, well, actually, that would be approximately under average for a normal review score, but nobody uses those. Oh, I'm not getting onto review scores. I could sit here and rant all day. The game is not 4 out of 10 material. Of the reviews I checked out in major outlets, I saw that fighting the Terminators was considered too easy. And I said that myself. But we seem to be approaching this from different angles. They were expecting more of a Nemesis-style opponent from Resident Evil 3, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I'd rather critique the content that's in the game as opposed to complaining about the game not being what I thought it was going to be. It also makes absolute sense in the context of the Terminator universe. Terminators are hard to kill in the 80s and 90s because the weapons don't exist. We're fighting the war in the future here. They do. It's just that there's an army of Terminators. Also, very minor spoiler if you haven't seen the first 2 movies for a while, and this does change in the third one, humans are winning the war in the future. Sending the Terminators back in time is supposed to be Skynet's last-ditch effort, but I digress. I also find it curious that the aspects of the game that got praised are the XP system and the crafting system, which, as I've already said, I kind of found superfluous. I would be fascinated to hear other people's opinions on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Ultimately, a lot of the complaints seem to boil down to it doesn't have the trappings of a modern first-person shooter, and you know what? I wouldn't mind a few more movement options or something like that, but the game is trying to be a simple, straightforward first-person shooter, not the next Destiny. And there has to be a place for that, especially given that it's a budget title. Now, like I said, I'm a fan of the franchise, well, the first and second movie, and apparently the 6th, I'll let you know when I watch it. And I think that's all this game was trying to be. Major outlets were treating it like it was attempting to be the next big first-person shooter, and it wasn't looking to rewrite the book. It was looking to be a budget, straightforward, first-person shooter set in the Terminator universe. We don't have one of those that's any good, and this is. Ultimately, is it going to be the next Half-Life? No. But it is a damn solid, middle-of-the-road title, and I cannot recommend it enough if you're a Terminator fan. Go check it out. Howdy folks, I hope you enjoyed whatever I had to say about whatever video you just watched, because generic endings are fun like this. If you aren't tired of hearing me talk yet, and you want to hear what I'm working on, or just my general thoughts on the day, you can follow me on Twitter. The link is on your screen and in the description below. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me and help me keep the lights on around here and put more awesome stuffies on the shelf here. The link is again on your screen in the description. I know, before anyone says it, I'm a tiny streamer to be having a Patreon. There are no tears or anything, it's just there for you guys. It's like a baby shampoo. There's no more tears. Anyway, thank you again for watching, folks. I release videos every Thursday, so be sure to check them out and check out whichever ones are showing on your screen right now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you all next week. Peace. I'm out.